Yo! What's up, everybody? It is House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you for the next hour-ish or so. Hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, comment, do all of them. Jump into the specs chat. We've already got super chats that we'll be getting to in just a moment. Oscar, indulge us. We just want to intro the show and kind of set the stage for what today's show will look like. Steve Sarkisian finishing up his Monday morning weekly press conference. I don't know that I heard a single thing that's like we desperately need to talk about, but he's feeling good. The Longhorns enter a bye week with a win. They've got a lot of things they want to work on. I think I found it interesting that the turnover margin is at the forefront of things they want to improve. He mentioned that they're +2 for the season, and that's not good enough. But all in all, things are pretty good in Longhorn paradise. Number one now in the coaches poll, number two in the AP poll. I don't know how you could be upset at Alabama getting a little bit of love after what was, Chad, you and I haven't discussed this yet, but whoa, that was some kind of game.
Yeah, it was great theater. I always love those type of football games that people want to immediately call it a great football game. For me, that's not what that is. That's a great hunk of theater. It's great finish. There's no great football game that is 28-0 at any point. That does not exist.
I disagree.
I know. That's fine. When
the Cowboys and the 49ers played in the 95 NFC Championship and the Niners start out 21-0, and then the Cowboys come clawing back and the right. Dion Pat, like that was a great game.
Yeah, by the end of it, that ends up being a great game. This one, 28-0, I don't know. But by the end of it, it's incredible theater. And for Bama almost to yak that one up.
Scrooge McDuck doing the show with me today.
Oh, no, there's just a difference between, again, those things are the same. Like, Carolina, New England in the Super Bowl. That's not a great game. It's a great finish. It's great theater.
Oh, come on. Compare that.
That's not a great football game. So anyway, but that stuff was it was incredible. The fight that Georgia put up and the fact that Bama's fans almost had to walk out of there with those Georgia people on them, like it was that close to happening. It was absolutely crazy. But it's weird that we didn't talk about it last week. It makes logical sense if that game. Really, either way, blowout, close game, whatever. The winner of that game was going to be the AP number one, and it almost didn't matter what happened in Austin.
Nothing about the switch was related to Texas. That it was right. Not. That was a reward of Alabama and not an indictment, really, for me. I didn't. At least I don't read it that way. Maybe there was a voter or two who said, "You know what? Yeah, Texas, you thought you were something else. You're number 2 this week." I mean, I think it was really more about rewarding what represents the best win of the college football season so far this year.
To me, if I'm a Texas fan, I wouldn't waste any time with, well, if Texas had done this, would they still be number 1 in the AP? I really think 75-0 might not have done it. It really, I don't know that needs to get any extra thought. I think, whoever that was going to be, Texas is going to get their opportunities to get that number 1 spot back, obviously. All right, Ketch, you mentioned we already do have super chats rolling in. Let's grab Oscar since it was first and it's $9.99. Thank you, Oscar. How much credit do we give Sark and company for that fourth quarter finish? Is it just that we had better players, or does the staff deserve credit for these guys finishing so strong?
I mean, the thing is, when you win, everybody gets credit. You can share the credit. I think how much credit do you give Sark and company for that? However, as much as you want to. I mean, it's his team. He's the head coach. So ultimately, in 25 years from now, we'll look back, and unless he has a Vince Young on this team that we don't completely know about, head coaches get the credit when they win and they get all the blame when they lose. So it's a bit of a nuanced question, right? For the finish, strength and conditioning, Sark would probably point to a strength and conditioning coach and say that guy's the main reason why we finished so strong. It's all those summer workouts in June and July and 100-degree heat. But again, that's the beautiful thing about always winning is that this week can be strength and conditioning week. And then next week, we can just give all of the credit to somebody else. Every week, someone else can get a big piece of the credit. And then at the end of it, you've got like 12 chapters of credit sharing. It's awesome.
Yeah. Catch, it all comes together pretty well for Texas. Not only the win, the way it ended up, in the end, it's a comfortable win, but you got plenty of stuff to work on, and you've got an off week, and then you have a game that will get every inch of your team's attention on the backside of it. Like, all of that stuff, I think, is perfect for Texas.
Now, look, I think winning the way they did is better for the Oklahoma game than if they had just 66-3 Mississippi State.
Yep.
And we're feeling real. You've got guys in that locker room right now who are concerned about their job performance. And I think that's how teams stay sharp. They always have a little bit of anxiety. I'll never forget, I talked to Bobby Kennedy, former Texas wide receivers coach, on the phone many years ago, right after the national championship game. And he was out on the field. He was out recruiting. This was less than a month after the national championship win. He and I were on the phone. He was nervous about some kid they were recruiting. I don't remember who it was now. And he was worried that if he didn't get the kid, that he might lose his job. And I was like, Bobby, you guys just won the national championship. I think you're good, man. Like, I know you want to win every recruiting battle, but I think you're going to be okay. I don't think you're losing your job. And his whole viewpoint was, hey, man, that's not how I feel. And that's probably how he stayed sharp as a recruiter. So to have that on your team, it makes, I think, practices better. I think it makes it more competitive. So I think it really was a win for this Texas team who, Chad, oh, by the way, everybody with super chats, hold on. We'll get back to them in a second. It's probably not a good thing for us to wait 10 minutes before we get into the thing that we're teasing on the thumbnail and in the title of the show. They get their quarterback back. Quinn Ewers is back. We think, right? I mean, it doesn't sound like if there was a game today that he would be the starter, but we're 12 days away from Texas OU. I think there's a real strong assumption that he will be the quarterback when the team returns to the field. It's quite a moment for Quinn Ewers to be re-entering action. Jalen Milroe is now the Heisman favorite. I think I think Jalen Milroe has been the best player in college football this season, backed up by the fact that he's the nation's number 2 pass efficiency quarterback. He's in the top 5 or maybe 8th in QBR, but he's such an important run game factor for Alabama. I mean, he really does everything. And oh, by the way, he had a monster day against Georgia, just an absolute monster. He's the favorite for the Heisman. Quinn Ewers comes back. Quinn Ewers wants to win the Heisman. Quinn Ewers wants to be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. There's a level of play that Quinn Ewers is going to have to reach as he comes back that, I don't know, Chad, maybe it's the thing that either sends him into the stratosphere and we see for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks the best football that Quinn Ewers has ever played in his life, because that's what it's going to take to get to New York. Or is there a little bit of pressure from the expectations? Can he do that? One of my big hot takes that I didn't really share in the Monday Overreaction show that I'm sharing today is that Jalen Milroe is a better college quarterback than Quinn Ewers. At least he has been for more than the last year. He's better than Quinn Ewers has been so far this year, with all due respect to Quinn, who's been very good. He was better than him in totality in 2023, which is why he was a Heisman finalist and Quinn Ewers wasn't. Texas fans have believe me, I see it every day. I've seen it this morning. When the subject of Jalen Milroe and elite quarterback play come up, they'll say, well, how did he look last year in the Alabama game? And it's like, okay, no, you're right. That was September of 2023. We're hours away from October of 2024. Since that Alabama game, Jalen Milroe has been a better college football player than Quinn Ewers. That's not to say that Quinn Ewers hasn't been good. It's to say that Jalen Milroe has elevated himself to a guy that's on pace to be a two-time Heisman finalist and the front runner of this year's award. And that if Quinn Ewers wants to accomplish some of the things that he desperately wants to accomplish, he wants desperately to win the Heisman, he's going to have to be better than Jalen Milroe. And that means when Georgia comes to town in a couple of weeks, the bar, matter of fact, the Heisman for Ewers is probably on the line against Georgia, because winning against Georgia won't be good enough. He'll have to be the best player on the field and post a stat line somewhat similar to what Milroe did, or when these conversations are taking place in November, late November, early December, they're going to look back at the common opponent and they're going to say, Jalen Milroe gave us one of the great games, one of the great fourth quarters. There you go. Okay. One of the great fourth quarters that we've ever seen, with a stat line where he had almost 500 yards of offense. I'd have to go back and even look at what it was. He had that huge play at the end. He rushes for 100. He throws for 300. The elephant in the room for me, as Quinn Ewers comes back to the starting quarterback position, is less Arch Manning, who I've got a hot take on him as well, and more, the bar now is Jalen Milroe. And that's the level that Quinn Ewers has to aspire to reach if he's going to accomplish what he wants to accomplish in this college football season.
Yeah, now it does change things, the perspective on it a little bit. Whoever was going to win that game Saturday night in Tuscaloosa does sort of, and Sark kind of referenced it today, it changes Texas's perspective in a way, because obviously the team they're not playing wins the game. The team they're not playing in the regular season wins the ball game, and now Jalen Milroe in Alabama will continue, and now there might be a collision course, but catch, it's a longer collision course because Georgia's coming. Now that's got a little precursor feel to it, where you're like, okay, Georgia may not be elite, badass, best team in the country. It's probably that other team, but now you got to go handle your business to get to try to get to Atlanta to maybe face up with Milroe. And yeah, the Heisman discussion will be interesting, because Quinn's opportunity to get Heisman moments upcoming is going to be fascinating to watch, because his opponents might not feel like it's a Heisman moment. We know Georgia will, though. That one for sure will feel like Heisman points are up for grabs.
With Milroe specifically, because I think there will be some Texas fans that just shake their head and go, you got to be kidding me. You think Jalen Milroe's been a better college football player than Quinn has been? Quinn's the one that won the Big 12 champion. And then you're like, well, Milroe, he did win one of those last year too. They did make the playoffs. They did essentially go the same distance in the playoffs as Texas did. Is there a moment for you where you look at it and go, okay, that's the moment I acknowledged that Jalen Milroe is a pretty great player?
Wow. I mean, I think it's interesting. Last year, Catch, we can argue, I think their seasons ended. They didn't end at the same exact spot. Well, no, I guess it did, right? They both ended, at the same position. And I could also argue both of those guys, right? Both of those guys would argue they kind of puked on their shoes at the end of the game. Like, did they cost their team the game? We could have that argument. But both guys would say, I think, to us today, fellas, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough at the end on the biggest plays of the game. Catch, the moments on Saturday when I realized Jalen Milroe, and I didn't think of it as Jalen Milroe was better than Quinn or whoever else. I did realize I had been wrong saying I thought Beck was better than Milroe. I thought that before the game started, and it was verified in the game. It's some of those big runs. It's some of the big runs. Obviously, there's been big throws as well, but it's the combo of everything. When he started looking like an even twitchier Jalen Hurts, that's when it reminded me. Because the people that are saying, like you've said at times, there's an ingredient of Donovan McNabb in it. So I've heard some say there's an ingredient of Vince Young in it. And when he takes off on some of those huge, like drive-saving runs, when it matters, when he climbs the pocket the right way, finds the open receiver, or makes the big run. Those are the moments that it reminds me. But to answer your question, it's that throw to Williams to win the game, because I thought Georgia had taken it from him. I really did. At 34-33, I thought, holy hell, T-Town's going to have to eat this thing, and it's going to be one of the biggest yaks we have ever seen. And Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams are going to have to figure this out. They gave up a 28-0. It's inexcusable. And in one play, he shut me and everybody else up, and he throws to that talented dude, and they're in the end zone, and Milroe's screaming and yelling. I'm like, wow, you're the man at that point. That was a huge moment for me in his development. What about you? Is it before that game even, or did it happen Saturday night?
No, it's last year in the SEC championship game. Okay. I mean, it is no small thing in the most, and it's really fascinating, because I think we would look back at Quinn and we would say that the Big 12 championship game, outside of the Alabama game, that was his moment of the season. He gets to wear the WWE belt. Like, it is a signature highlight moment in his career. And when later on that day, that night, we see Milroe be the best player on the field in a game between Alabama and Georgia, that was the moment that I went, oh, okay, I get it. Heisman finalist, yeah, he probably should be there. I think one of the things that gets lost with Milroe, though, is that when he comes back from that South Florida game last year, in Quinn Ewers' career, he has 2 games with a quarterback efficiency rating of 190 or higher. This isn't running the football, which may be Milroe's superpower, right? It's the thing that on paper would scare the crap out of you as you get ready to play. You say things like, can't let our rush contain lanes, can't break down. You know, we have to be disciplined in our gap integrity, all these things, right? Quinn Ewers in his Texas career has 2 passing performances, including one this season, of more than 190 in quarterback efficiency, twice in his career. Milroe has done it 8 times since he came back on the field after that South Florida game a year ago. So he's not very, like, almost without us totally paying attention. This guy has turned into an elite of the elite passing quarterback 8 times in his career, really in the last calendar year. And that includes 3 out of his 4 games this season. So the Georgia game was the moment last year for me and now he's now been the best player on a Georgia Alabama game. I mean, let's be clear. My man against Georgia, because if somebody wants to say that Ryan Williams was the best player on the field, I kind of get that to some extent. Yeah. Jalen Milroe threw for 374 yards on 27 of 33 passing, while also rushing for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Ryan Williams, that's not that.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was a Jalen Hurts performance on steroids is what it was.
491 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns against the number 1 team in the country, at least in one of the polls, depending on how you looked at it. Right. Georgia was either number 1 or number 2, but it's Georgia. And so Milroe's now done that twice. And that's the level that Quinn has to get to. If he wants to be the Heisman Trophy winner, he's going to have to match what Milroe does on a weekly basis. And so it's the conversation that we constantly have about Quinn. Can he go from the Hall of Very Good to the Hall of Fame? And I think for the next 7 regular season games and beyond, it's either the answer to that is yes, or he's going to fall short ultimately of the conversations that we've spent the entire year talking about. Is he going to be the best quarterback in the SEC? Can he win a Heisman Trophy winner? Will Texas win a national championship? I would probably contend that Ewers will have to match that level or get to that level in order for Texas to get to the finish line. I think it's wildly fascinating, though, that you're exactly right, Chad. The one thing that Milroe and Ewers both have in common, besides having, it goes hand in hand, mega conference championship performances, followed by games that kept them up all night the entire offseason.
Right. Yeah. At the end, there was something that they couldn't pull off. Right. They had a bad moment, whether it was a throw or a run at the end. And yeah, it's going to haunt them. It'll haunt them forever. And they're trying to get rid of that. The other ingredient, Catch, and I think we have a super chat regarding this, but the Kalen DeBoer ingredient is wild stuff too. That if you want to make an argument about Sark having a little bit of kryptonite out there in Kalen DeBoer, the fact that DeBoer has beaten him 2 bowls in a row, a bowl game, and then obviously a really important semifinal, like that element too, that it's DeBoer dialing up Milroe. So we have to remember, Catch, when Texas faced Bama the last time, the Bama coaching staff had no idea how to coach Milroe. None.
No,
in
as
my opinion.
evidenced by the fact that he didn't play the next week.
They were lost as to what to do with that guy. Bill O'Brien had no idea what was going on there, and they stumbled all over themselves in terms of Jalen Milroe. Say what you want about last Saturday night. I think DeBoer knows who Milroe is. I think he does.
And look, Texas fans saw the bet. We'll take our super chats. I know they've been stacking up, and we want to encourage people to send them, and you don't do that by not taking them. So we'll get to them in just a second. Texas got Michael Penix on Michael Penix's best day, right? So I'm going to say what I'm about to say, and Texas fans are going to go, "You're crazy," and I get it, because the day that Texas played Penix turned in a first-round level performance. Jalen Milroe is significantly better as a college football player than Michael Penix. Significantly. Consider this. Jalen Milroe's passing efficiency right now, and look, that includes a 191 against Georgia on a night when he threw the ball 33 times. His passing efficiency numbers are 50 points higher right now this season than Penix was over the course of last season. 50 points higher. It's a staggering stat. The other thing is, we're not talking about his run game. Jalen Milroe is the ultimate dual threat player in college football right now.
Yeah.
He scares the crap out of people with his legs. And oh, by the way, he's the second highest rated passer in college football right now. I think, boy, the SEC is going to be a lot of fun this season, because you can make the case that Milroe and Ewers are headed – they're on a collision course.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. And Catch, like I said earlier, it's Jalen Hurts dialed up to me. Everything Jalen Hurts could give you, make the passing better, make the reads better, make the throws better, make the runs better. And I didn't think I'd say that about a Bama quarterback after Jalen Hurts walked away. Trust me, Catch, as a fan of Texas A&M football, I didn't think I would tell you there could be a Bama quarterback that scares me more with his feet than what Jalen Hurts did to the SEC back then. But there's a little extra smooth. There's a little extra gravy. There's a little extra shake to what Milroe does when he takes off. It's scary stuff. The good news for everybody else is the Bama defense is not what it was back then.
That's your pathway to winning right now.
That's the key. And that's another reason to me, just again, my opinion, because I know everybody likes to flip out immediately. That's why it wasn't a great football game to me. You can't just throw up a bunch of bombs and defense gives up a bunch of bombs and you blow 28-point leads and call it a great football game. It's great theater. It's fun to watch. The end is exciting because it was close, but that doesn't make it a great football game. The good news for Texas, Catch, in Atlanta, if it's them against Bama, it's that Bama's defense can be had a little bit, if not a lot, and it may turn into Quinn and Milroe going into this crazy stat shootout.
It could. That's where this whole thing points to that, Chad. Well,
Yeah.
the thing that nobody is really saying yet is we might get ourselves in an SEC championship where maybe even the Heisman Trophy is decided by 60 minutes of those dudes playing video game football against each other, because it could happen.
That would be awesome because the votes are due the Monday after, right?
I believe that the ceremony is a week from the day end of the game. It's a week Saturday night.
So I think they make you. I think you can vote whenever you want. Technically, you can vote today, but I think they make the Heisman voters vote by that next Monday, which would be awesome. If you let that, if that's the game,
they'll all hold out. They'll all hold out. If that game is approaching, yes.
Because, Catch, we also might be about to see a season where you have to turn to each other as Heisman voters and go, okay, so is it number 4 for Alabama or is it number 2 for Alabama? I'm just checking. Because Ryan Williams might end up throwing the season out where you go, well, if Devontae got it for that, this kid just did that. So,
by the way, hey, I tweeted this out on Sunday after the polls were done. We talked a little bit about it on the post-game show. This tweet got as much action as anything else I did all week long, and like there's almost like 1,000 retweets.
Mm-hmm.
In 19 days, we're 19 days away. October 19th.
Yep.
Number 5 Georgia at number 1 Texas or number 2 Texas.
Yep.
And number 2 Alabama or number 1 Alabama. It's possible that it isn't impossible that day arrives and there are 2 number 1 teams in the SEC.
Right.
One hosting number 5 Georgia and the other playing at number 4 Tennessee.
What's Tennessee have between? That's
the only one I know. I haven't looked.
That's the only one I don't know.
What does Alabama have?
Let me double check I'll double check the schedules. Hang on.
Tennessee's got Arkansas and Florida. They're at Arkansas this weekend, and then they're home against Florida on the 12th.
Yeah, those could be crazy for them. They got to survive those two. Bama has something that's decently tough. I think it's okay. What do they have?
I got it. They play Vanderbilt this weekend at Vandy, and then they're home to South Carolina.
Yeah, so they should be able to handle that. Yeah, that could be.
Everybody should win their games.
Could be an incredible weekend. And we all had thought, without realizing, I guess, that Bama and Tennessee played that weekend, we had all thought automatic Texas, Georgia, night game, game day, all that stuff. Game day may have to go to Knoxville. Like by the time we get to that moment of decision, game day might have to decide, oh, wait a second. Don't we have to go there for that'll be wild to see what they do.
It'll be a day where 2 of the 3 biggest college football games of the season, at least up until then, will be playing with back to back. However, one of those games is going to be a 2:30 game and the other game is going to be a primetime game. And our entire Saturday is going to be shaped around watching a critical piece of the 2024 SEC season unfold in front of us, because Tennessee is still unbeaten. So a win over Alabama kind of neuters that win over Georgia to a certain extent. Georgia Georgia will be playing for their very lives, because they can't they could lose again and make the playoffs, no problem. Losing again, though, in SEC play might mean you can't get into the SEC championship game, which means you can't win the SEC championship game, which means you can't get a top 4 seed, and it just requires you to play an extra game and potentially an extra game or 2 on the road. And so Georgia has to play with a level of anxiety and focus from here on out, and Texas is going to see some of that, because Georgia will be playing for their football lives to some extent when they come to Austin. And again, I know we've got Texas OU, and I know we've got super chats. I get it, but I cannot wait. You couldn't pull me away from the TV for anything. I want to be able to watch both of those games and then just enjoy the hell. And I'll be disappointed. We need Texas to be at night, because what I don't want is for Texas to be going on during the day, and then you and I are doing the post-game show for the first 3 quarters of Alabama and Tennessee. I don't want that. So I'm officially in favor of a night game so that you and I can watch all of Alabama, Tennessee in its glory.
There we go. All right. It is House Divided on this Monday. It is bye week for Texas at 5-0, thanks to over 500, almost 600 of you in the Specs chat. We will get to those super chats. Real quick catch before we do that. Why don't you take a breath and tell them about Rogue Shop and all that Rogue Shop can do for that relaxation or whatever they're looking for.
Man, whatever you're looking for, whatever you need. That's what I'm always talking about. Is it pain with this? And then you can get the salve, or is it the sleeplessness? Do you need some gummies, which can do more than help you sleep well? I talk about them like they're a PM, but they help take the edge off, but then they'll also give you a good night of sleep. There's products all over the place that will make your life a little bit better. Scan that QR code. Just go check it out. Go see if there's anything there that might be just what the doctor ordered for whatever is ailing you. I can tell you right now, I did not sleep well last night at all. And I don't take a gummy every night. Sometimes I do it when I know that I really want a good night of sleep, but I don't take it all the time. Last night, what was I thinking? My wife was doing errands at all hours of the night, and the dogs were barking, and I couldn't sleep. It was awful. And if I just taken a gummy, those dogs could have barked in my ear, and it wouldn't have mattered. But, the worst is when you wake up knowing that you had the answer to the pop quiz right in front of you, and you chose to get it wrong on purpose. Won't do that tonight, Rogue Shop. I promise you'll be in my prayers. Scan that QR code.
You'll be in my prayers. That's fantastic. All right. What was that old country song? What was I thinking? Who did that? What was I thinking? Somebody tell me that in the chat. I can't.
Is that like a Johnny Paycheck song? What are we doing?
It wasn't quite that far back. A little more recently than that. I made that a little more Johnny Paycheck than it actually is. All right. Let's see. Let's grab some super chats here. Catch. Barb's 10, $5. Alabama blew a huge lead and had to hold on to win. Georgia sleptwalked 3/4 of the game and still almost won. It's perspective, fellas. Warrants dropping Texas. Barb's 10. When you lay it out that way, I understand what you're saying. And in fact, Catch, if I was an AP voter, I'd be one of the 19. Texas still has 19 first place votes. That I would have been one of those. Because again, what I saw in Tuscaloosa didn't tell me necessarily that at the end of the game, well, the winner has to be number one. I'm like, well, wait a minute. That team almost blew a 28-point lead, and that team puked on its shoes until the first part of the third quarter. Then they woke up, and then we had some theater to the end. But to me, I could still get to the end of the night and do what I think you would have done and said Texas is still the best team in the country.
Yeah, for me, I still look at it as if Texas and Alabama played, who would I favor to win that game? And I still favor Texas by a slight margin.
Okay.
I think they're a little more complete team. I don't think we're talking about just how good this defense is. And look, it's got to play a real quarterback before we can get too crazy. So we'll learn a lot in the next couple of weeks. Say what you want to, but maybe Michael Hawkins is as good as anybody they've played so far this season. I think maybe. Maybe. And then there's a part of me that wonders that the Colorado State guy is still the best quarterback that they've played this season. I don't know if Michael Hawkins is yet at that level. I don't know.
Yeah. Have they even played a quarterback that's a weapon at anything?
I mean, in theory, the kid at Colorado State was supposed to be pretty good, but he's a non-Power 5 player,
right?
Playing against that level of athlete. It's I don't mean to be disrespectful to Trey Moore, but Trey Moore was an elite level non-Power 5 player. At this level in this competition, it somewhat changes. I don't even know how to sometimes talk about non-Power 5 players regardless of position because they're not playing the same game. But up until now, I tell you what. I'm going to talk. Let's take some super chats. Yeah. I'm going to try to answer that question by looking at what he's done on the season as a whole.
Barb's 10, thank you for that one. Also, another one from Barb's 10, $5 super chat. Color me conspiracy theorist. Heisman hates Texas. See Vince and Colt. Quinn doesn't have a chance. Heisman to Texas is like Grammys to best artist. Oh, this is interesting. A theory that the Heisman people don't like Texas. So Ricky just broke the curse?
I mean, the Heisman people is 6 different regions of the countries where votes are spread out all over. I used to run Heisman.com. I'm intricately aware of how the Heisman race works, what the mindsets of certain regions of the voters historically looks like. I don't think the Heisman hates Texas, unless you just want to go out and say that all 50 states and all 50 states worth of sports writers, that they all hate Texas more so than they hate other programs, that there's just a Texas hate that exists. I know Texas fans want to believe that, but Colt McCoy finished second in the Heisman race in 2009. Shouldn't have been there. So his pass efficiency rating in 2009 was lower than Casey Thompson's in 2021. Anybody remember Casey Thompson's passer rating? I do. So I feel you, but I don't completely feel you.
Okay, so I think I'm going to have to interpret this one, Catch. Oscar $4.99 super chat. Is it fair to say KB has a trend of letting teams back into games?
DeBoer.
He means DeBoer, right? Not KB. He means KD on that one.
No, yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting, Oscar, because obviously, that Texas game, if you're just watching from the third-party seat, Washington let that game get way closer than it needed to last year. And obviously this one, you just can't. That's all I thought of too, Catch. For Milroe and the players, it's one thing. DeBoer. Can you imagine if they lost that game? And he has to go to a press conference in T-Town and try to explain, here's why I blew 28-0 and 30-7 and whatever else those other scores were. I don't know if it's a thing for him, but Oscar does bring up an interesting point. The last big national moments for him, that's not what the championship game was, but in 2 national moments for him, he has let games get closer than I would argue they should have been.
Sure. Which is also another way of saying, is it fair to say that KD has a trend of beating the crap out of teams for the first 3 quarters of games?
Right. Yeah. Maybe he's one of those fighters in the UFC that whips you for 3 rounds and then sleeps for the next 2. Look,
DeBoer's teams. Here's what DeBoer has a trend of: winning.
Yeah.
These are his, the guy went 11-2 at Washington and then 14-1. He won 9 games at Fresno State. He won 3 national championships at Sioux Falls out of 4 years and lost the other one in the championship game. He can coach, man. He might be Urban Meyer without the sleaze. When Urban Meyer comes from Utah, what was the question? Not could he coach? The question was, well, can he do it going from Utah to the SEC? It's exactly the same for DeBoer. What he's been – now, look, he's got an awesome talent base to work with. He has to have showed up at Alabama and thought to himself, wait, Nick Saban walked away from this? Because he'll have a roster that's better than the one that for him played in a national championship game last year. And that's what he gets handed to him in year 1. It's not what he had in year 1 at Washington. It's not what he had at year 1 in Fresno State in the middle of a pandemic. And it's not what happened to him when he went to Sioux Falls. Yeah. So I think the guy's incredible. I think the guy's going to play in a lot of really big games. And I would be surprised if we continue to think that that's a long trend. I think it's a pretty small sample size at this point. All I know is that guy wins 90% of his games all the time. Yeah. So that's the trend I see, Chad, is that he's won 108 of his last 120 games.
Yeah. And he's finished those games that we're referencing too. He did find a way to finish that game and not let Texas win it. And then Saturday night, when all hell had broken loose, when his team was about to give up that they gave it up. They gave up the lead in that game. The place was rabble. You could feel it, man. T-Town was about to come unglued, and his team maintained. His team found a way to score. They finished that game off, and you got to be impressed with that. That was impressive stuff. A couple of other quick, smaller super chats. We appreciate all those 199s. We don't want a ton of them, but we appreciate them. Orange Bloods won with 199. Thank you. If it was just throwing something in the tip jar, we appreciate you. And then this one had a little bit with it. Are we sure Georgia is all that good? They certainly put up a fight eventually on Saturday night, Catch, but Georgia does have the question to answer. This is how great they've been, that people would ask this in a chat. Are they all that good? That's how you know you're a badass team.
Dirkley, I have to ask the follow-up questions, and you don't have to do a super chat with your answer. So what are you suggesting? Georgia isn't all that. So what good are you saying they're not?
Catch, I'll give you an example. I've seen multiple Texas fans on the chat say they are now more worried about the Kentucky game than the Georgia game. I've seen it. It's a real thing. It happened earlier today.
That it's not exactly the same, but it would be like looking at your NFL schedule, or it'd like being in the playoffs and saying you're more worried about the Minnesota Vikings than you are the Kansas City Chiefs. Georgia went 12-0 last year, lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game. They literally, I think Clemson's actually really good, and Georgia battered their brains out.
Yeah.
I
knew you'd enjoy that one. Thank you, Dirkley, for making Catch do what you're seeing him do today. I appreciate that. Also, on a totally different topic and not a super chat, just shout out to our very first chat of the day, Catch, from Tex Blonde 5. I'm here and I'm real. If y'all don't know the story, you need to do your research. Do your research.
Tex Blonde.
Anwar does not believe that she is real. The rest of us are willing to believe she is real. Catch, you believe she's real?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not Anwar. Yes. I believed even before she took photos this weekend with South End Zone Queen, who I also believe is real.
Right. If I can believe, I have met South End Zone Queen. So if South End Zone Queen is vouching, I'm done. Investigation over. No need for a streaming, mini series. No need for a detective style investigation. I'm in. I'm good. She's real.
Is Chad real? Now that is a good question, because could a real human being blink that much?
Right. See? Yeah. This could be an algorithm. You never know. This right here could be totally wrong.
It's a system glitch.
It really could. I think my entire existence could be described as a system glitch. I think that could just be the whole thing. If you want to jump into the Specs chat, we would love to have you. Up over 600 folks are already in there. Remember, we're in the last stretch of the whiskey sale. It goes to October the 5th. You're in the off week. Celebrate 5-0 with a little whiskey.
Specs for our whiskey sale and enjoy the lowest prices on Texas' largest selection of whiskey. But hurry, these deals won't last long. Specs, cheers to savings.
Is he AI generated? You really think AI would generate this? I mean, come on. AI is better than that. All right, Catch.
You kind of look like one of those AI creatures in AI, the Will Smith movie.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
They're all bald, no hair. We both I'm just saying.
I guess that
You're not making a good case for yourself that if I look like this, would I be AI? That might be just the type of thing that AI would create to make you think that AI isn't around.
I hadn't even thought of that curveball. Well, that's well done. Well done.
Isn't it much more likely if you saw a hot person, you'd instinctively go, that person might not be real. That person might be AI. A real human being could not be that attractive. Meanwhile, if you see an ugly person, you're like, that person's definitely real, because who would want to make that?
But it's the average ones that you got to worry about.
You assume beauty is fake and average is not.
You've got that middle of the road, good looking quality that makes me think it might be a computer.
Who's trying to make somebody look like they're from Waxahachie and Elgin?
Only the smartest computers known to man. Only the most fantastic computers known to man.
By the way, a shout out again to Doc Hastings in the Waxahachie Hall of Fame. He has a gold jacket. He now matches his son's accomplishments. Well done, Doc. I was beginning to wonder about you. I was thinking, God, how good of a teacher can this guy be if Chad is getting in the Hall of Fame before you are? But now it doesn't matter when you get in. All that matters, there's not like a Hall of Fame. It's just a Hall of Fame. And once you get in, you're a member. And I'm not in a Hall of Fame. What's up, McCallum High School?
Come on, McCallum.
Get me in something.
By the way, updated picture for you. There's the crew there on the left. Yes, outstanding educator inductee. Catch, they let him speak. He got a little emotional. It was fantastic. Congrats to Doc Hastings. Yes,
Did he shed a tear?
He did. There was emotion coming out. It was fantastic. We were right there in downtown Waxahachie. Thought I'd let everybody see the finest courthouse in all of Texas as well. And congrats to Doc Hastings. But
I'm getting emotional. We both should have been there.
Well, here's the thing. If you are that committee, that ex-Students Association committee, you probably made the right move by allowing Doc Hastings to talk. But the year before, they ushered me right off that stage. There wasn't a mic within 10 feet of my path. I never had the opportunity to say a word, but they let him speak. Probably a good move. The robot and the blinks are glitch. Then how do you explain the eyebrows? What are the eyebrows? Are those glitches too? Huh?
I haven't figured that part out yet, Chad.
A couple weeks ago, somebody was trying to read messages into the folds of my forehead. They thought that was some kind of weird signal that I was sending.
That's just where the floppy disk goes.
This is right. Exactly. That's where the information goes in and out every time.
You're an early edition. You're not one of the new models that doesn't have the seams in the middle of the head.
Right. I'm the Chad Hastings 1.0.
Or are you?
Yeah, or am I? That is true. All right. If you want to jump in the Specs chat, we will let you do that. Also, real quick, before Catch is going to roll about one today.
Hold on. Darwin, what are we doing with 35-year-old movie? It's almost a 40-year-old movie reference.
Oh, that's solid. That is solid. Johnny 5 Alive.
Darwin just dated himself.
Number 5 Alive. I love that movie. You kidding me? The emotional performance of Steve Guttenberg that the Oscar people ignored. Ali Sheedy as the animal-loving, robot-loving, life-loving.
It's my favorite version of Ali Sheedy.
Oh, it's a great Ali Sheedy. Such a good movie. The sidekick scientist guy, I don't know the actor's name. He was fantastic.
That guy should have been in more things.
Short Circuit. Great movie.
Sheedy, that is the dreamiest by 1,000 miles that Ali Sheedy has ever been.
That is definitely when I fell in love with Ali Sheedy. I did not fall in love with Ali Sheedy at the high school in Shermer, Illinois. I fell in love with her there, up in the mountains, wherever they were in Short Circuit. It's good stuff.
She's a little bleeding heart liberal hippie girl wearing a white dress. I loved her.
What was the business? She had like a van with a business. What was it? I don't even remember.
It's been a long time, Chad.
It was like cakes or something. I can't even remember what it was.
Now I got to look it up.
Yeah. Now look that up. I'll talk about Hayes City Store and you look that up. The folks at Hayes City Store are waiting on you out there in Driftwood. If you haven't been, look, it's a perfect week. Longhorn fans, you got an off week here. Take a breath, take a rest, and man, just go relax out at Hayes City Store. Chicken fried steak, the chicken fried chicken, the chicken fried pork chop. Are you kidding? Those pizzas are incredible. I told you about that home run dip last week. You just can't go wrong. Great food, great drink, the wonderful ice house area, or maybe it's out under the beautiful shade tree, or maybe it's the indoor seating. Make sure you get your reservations because the folks that go to Hayes City Store, they go back again and again. And if you've never been, you're going to be one of them. Tell Travis and Tamara we said, hey, out at Hayes City Store. So good. All right, Catch, did you do the research? What was the business?
I have found pictures of the van.
Okay.
But I can't tell I found multiple pictures of the van, but there's nothing slapped on the van that tells us what she did.
Somebody's saying it was a food truck. I just love that somebody might have just tuned into the show to hear you say, I have found pictures of the van, but I can't tell what it is. Like, what are they talking about? All right. I don't see any super chats at this moment. Catch, anything else from
She's an animal caregiver.
An animal. Okay, I thought it was something to do with animals, like animal shampoo or animal vet or some mobile animal thing.
She's a caregiver.
An animal caregiver. There you go. Yeah, it's good stuff. I've never met a person who hasn't seen Short Circuit. That's an interesting statement to make from your life. Duty Price.
There's no way that's true.
Met a person who hasn't seen Short Circuit. No, here's what I love, Catch. I love the idea that there's somebody out there that might actually ask every new person they meet that question. Like somebody helps you at Target to get something off the top shelf, and then right before they walk away, oh, Tony, you ever seen Short Circuit? Like, what?
Well, that person has never said, wait, what? No. He's saying every person he's ever met
has said yes. Right.
There's a higher percentage of people that have seen Short Circuit that he's met than Kalen DeBoer's winning percentage, which is 90%.
That is bizarre. Yeah.
Damn.
Didn't know. All right. Fair enough. Hey, if you're asking, we are going to believe.
Here's hey, just so you know, if I get an Amazon delivery in the next 20 minutes, I will stop and go out and ask the random delivery person, have you ever seen the movie Short Circuit? Not Short Circuit 2.
Oh, God.
Short Circuit, the original.
I don't even like to think there is a Short Circuit 2. I've never seen it. By the way, by tomorrow, Catch, I got to finish Gangs of New York. So I'm going to make a promise to you.
A 5-day journey with that?
I'm going to make a promise to you. I'm going to finish it up. I've been watching a lot of football, but I'm going to try to finish up Gangs of New York before tomorrow. We did have a super chat just come in. Let's grab that real quick. This is from Chris, $9.99. Buy or sell one. Oh, lead us right into buy or sell. Archon Simmons will be the best offensive and defensive players in college football next year. And number 2, you would now trade Baxter for Blue. Buy or sell?
We'll sell to the last one. I'm keeping my Jaden Blue stock.
Mm-hmm.
As for the first one, sure. It's possible.
Feels about right, doesn't it? Archon Simmons,
they'll be in the conversation.
Definitely. Absolutely. Chris, thank you for that $9.99. That is how you super chat. It'll go right to the top of the list. If you want to send us a super chat, Catch, are you ready to buy or sell on this Monday?
Real quick. Fisher Stevens is the number 3 guy.
Okay.
He's
so good.
The other main person in Short Circuit 2, Michael McKeon.
Michael McKeon, like Lenny and Squiggy?
Yes.
He's in that movie?
Yes.
Whoa, I have not seen Short Circuit in a long time. Okay.
It's crazy to me that after all these years, Michael McKeon is still Lenny and Squiggy to you.
I mean, that's the first thing that pops up. It's my entry point. I'm that age. That's what he was. That's the first thing he was to me.
Do you watch Better Call Saul?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I just feel like now I say Better Call Saul, he's Chuck more than Lenny. But I totally understand. But that was like 45 years ago.
Yeah, his greatest performance to me is definitely Better Call Saul. When I see his face, no matter what it's in my head, I hear, hello. Every time. Every time.
Just like Short Circuit, I don't know that I've ever met a person that hasn't seen Laverne and Shirley.
Right, and I see him doing this. Every time. Every single time. Artwork as Lenny in the lone wolf jacket. All right. You ready to buy or sell?
I am. I have all 5 questions in the system.
All right. Who's
I'm
first?
Good to go. I'll let you go first today. Not that my questions are saving the best for last, but I'll let you go first.
Fair enough. Buy or sell number 1, Catch. Back to DKR. Biggest concern coming out of the Mississippi State game for you is the O-line mistakes.
Sell. It's the Texas running game, and specifically, I don't know that they really know who their main running back is. I think they're going to go with Jaden Blue. I think they think he's the best guy, but he took a major step backwards on Saturday after building up a little bit of steam against Louisiana Monroe. It's weird. I think they're in the top 10 nationally in rushing, but a lot of that yardage is Arch Manning, and it feels like once a game they get a mega run play out of a wide receiver, and those run yards count as well. I mean, they count them all, but they're running. They have 3 scholarship running backs on campus. They average in yards per carry respectably. Blue's 4.7, Gibson's 4.9, Trey Wisner's 5.0. Arch Manning, even with sacks, is at 6.3. To me, look, I spent an entire offseason telling people that CJ Baxter's 4.7 yards per carry wasn't good enough. You can't have a team full of guys essentially averaging the same yards per carry and it be good enough. So that's my number 1 concern right now.
Speaking of that running game, Catch. Buy or sell number 2, you'd have given Blue another carry right away and not waited for Dallas for his next carry.
Buy. Wouldn't have let him come in on the next drive, but I would have put him back in the game probably the drive after that. I think that kid's brains probably scrambled a little bit going into this bye week. Even a touch or two would have let him, like you said it, his next carry will be in the Texas OU game. That doesn't feel optimal.
Yeah, that just felt weird to me. All right, Catch, let's go to the quiz. Buy or sell number 3. There are 3 Big 12 teams that are 2-0 in conference, and you can name them.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this, if I can do this.
Okay.
BYU is 1.
That is correct.
Arizona is 2.
That is not true. Not true.
Well, then I give up. If I've already missed it.
The other 2 Big 12 teams that are 2-0.
Iowa State.
No. Colorado and Texas Tech.
Oh, I should have known that. Congrats to Texas Tech. They beat somebody. I can't remember who they played, but they won like 41-30 something, or maybe even a little closer than that. I remember checking the box score in the middle of the Alabama-Georgia game because I was thinking, oh, Texas Tech scored 44 points. So I was like, Micah Hudson had to catch a pass, right?
Didn't happen. That's crazy. Yeah, I saw that. I saw you throw that stat out. That is absolutely wild.
The staff is having a conversation about Alabama, Georgia, and it was in the middle of when that game really started to get crazy. And out of nowhere, I was like, Micah Hudson hadn't caught a pass in that.
That was crazy. Yeah, that was a wild throw in, but it still was impactful. We all still reacted to it.
Everybody at the same time went, wow, okay.
Yeah. All right, Catch. How about rest of the country stuff? Buy or sell number 4. There are 4 other Power 4 teams that are 2-0 in conference. 1 in the SEC, 1 in the ACC, 2 in the Big Ten. You can't name all 4 without a miss.
Oh, buy.
Okay, fair enough.
Matter of fact, it's such a buy that I said sell. Thinking that the sell was the buy.
The only ACC team that's 2-0 is Clemson. The Big Ten is Michigan and Indiana, and there's only one SEC team that's 2-0 in conference. That would be Texas A&M with wins over Florida.
I could have gotten 3 of those.
Okay, with wins over Florida and Arkansas.
Because I think I was on the SEC's official website this weekend, And it was really strange. They had the conference standings,
Mhm.
and they had A&M at 2-0 underneath all of the teams that were 1-0.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's the reason why I would have remembered that, because when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute. Technically, Texas A&M is in first place in the SEC. And,
Yeah.
I thought about making that like a tweet just for some cheap thrills. I would have gotten Clemson right. Would not have gotten Michigan or Indiana. And what was the
Yeah.
other one?
Those were the 4. Yeah.
Oh, I'd have got
A&M.
2 of the 4.
There you go. And by the way, Catch, I'll say it today because it probably won't last very long. But if I'm reading the tiebreaker rules right, as of this moment, Atlanta would be house divided. It would be Texas and Texas A&M for the SEC
Now
title.
that's a tweet worth making.
That is what it would technically be. Let's finish off this way, Catch. Buy or sell number 5. Chris Christopherson died over the weekend. Rest in peace in all the capital letters I can find. He is on the Mount Rushmore of country singer-songwriters.
Sell.
Okay.
But I reserve the right to change my mind. For next week's 10 Thoughts from the Weekend, and am doing a Chris Christopherson deep dive, which I've never done before.
Oh, that's very cool.
I know some Chris Christopherson.
Right.
But I've never done a deep dive.
Could you just make the Highwaymen the Mount Rushmore? Like, think of those.
You could, yes.
Right? Those 4 guys as singers and songwriters, like, they're up there. I don't know if they're all at the very top, but that's a close discussion.
I saw a picture this weekend on Facebook, because why wouldn't I see something like this on Facebook? It was a picture of Joe Ely and Jerry Jeff Walker playing for Ernest Tubb.
Nice.
At, I think, the Broken Spoke.
Well, there's a night to be at the Spoke.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That's great.
Anyway, I'm going to do, so I will be doing the deep dive on Christopherson this week. Feel free to ask me how things are going along the way, but I will listen to I will come out of that with a enhanced view on his placement in the all-time greatness of country music.
God, such a badass. When you land in a helicopter to deliver Johnny Cash a song that you think is good enough for Johnny Cash and he takes it, that makes you a badass. Chris Christopherson, rest in peace. All right, Catch, that's my half of buy or sell. What do you got?
I know the answer to this before I ask it because you've kind of answered it.
Yes.
But I want to know in your mind what is going to replace it. Buy or sell number 1, Alabama, Georgia was the best regular season SEC game of the last decade. I framed it that way because A&M's mostly been in the SEC for a decade.
Yeah, it's definitely a sell. I mean, definitely a sell. Highly entertaining, great finish. That's not the best regular season SEC game of the last decade.
So what?
It's
name one.
I mean, it's one of a good. Let's see. If we're in 2024, I got to go back to 2014 and forward.
Yes.
So
I said the last decade to take the Manziel games out of the equation.
Right. See, and the other part of it is the SEC traps us because if you go back, you don't get enough quality matchups because they work the schedule.
I'm asking, just name one.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's not Saturday night.
Did you think the 117 to 114 quadruple 16 overtime game between LSU and A&M, was that a better game than Alabama, Georgia?
No, probably not. I mean, I'd have to go through it. There was a lot of sloppiness in that game. Some bad calls went the Aggies' way. And just because also, I hate that 7 overtime scared college football into getting rid of so many overtimes. So yeah, no, I didn't watch that night and think that I'd watch like the
nice overreaction college football.
Yeah, that didn't, no.
I'm doing a Google search on the greatest SEC games of all time. I'll tell you what I find here in a second.
Yeah.
Buy or sell number.
Okay, go ahead.
Buy or sell number 2. Jaden Blue will start against Oklahoma.
I mean, I would hope that's a buy. If that's a guy you're going to try to, punish and take him out of the starting lineup, then I'm confused, and this running game has some big question marks at that point. I love the idea of Trey Wisner, but not for that idea. For the starting guy that you're going to hand the ball to like 20 times maybe to try to be the 1,000-yard back that Sark's going to have this year. I'm not quite sure if that's what Wisner is, and I don't know if he trusts Gibson enough to be that guy either. I'm going to buy this. It needs to be Jaden Blue immediately, and I would have given him another carry at least. I would have let him back in there Saturday night. I'm hoping that they haven't messed with his head by taking him out the rest of the game.
Buy or sell number 3, Rashee Rice's ACL injury is a killer to Kansas City's season.
Out of respect for them, I'll say sell, but it's really bad. I mean, it's really, really bad, but killer for them. They looked last year like they weren't quite Super Bowl level, and then they figured out a way. So I won't say it's the killer at this point because they certainly refound Kelsey, and Xavier Worthy's a badass, and I'll trust Andy Reid and Mahomes to figure stuff out to where they'll still feel pretty damn elite. But it's bad, but I'll sell the idea that it kills the season.
Buy or sell number 4, you agree that Arch Manning is a top 10 quarterback in college football right now?
Yeah, I'd buy that. I don't think that's that crazy at all. I think it'd be I mean, if you want to even whittle it down to a top 5 conversation, I think that would be fascinating as well. But absolutely top 10. There's so many teams that would take him. The list of teams that could honestly tell us they would not take him right now as their starting quarterback, it is not that long. It really is not that long.
And finally, buy or sell number 5, you finished Mr. McMahon on Netflix this weekend, and you loved it.
Ooh, I gotta sell. Not the loved it part. I just haven't finished yet. I got through, I think I'm up through episode 1. So I'm still early on. Haven't finished it, but I will. I had to double check and see if my wife wanted to watch. She was not interested. So now I'm going to plow through the rest of it alone. Plus I got to finish Gangs in New York. Plus I was watching football. So there's been a lot going on.
Your TV's going to wear out on you.
I know. I'm going to get there. But I haven't got there yet.
So those are my 5. Wait, yeah,
Okay.
Those are my 5 questions.
All
I'm
right.
literally looking at a list of that ESPN did a few years ago, the top 150 the top 150 college football games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only found 2 regular season SEC games on the list that would one barely misses qualifying, the Alabama-Auburn kick 6 game.
Ooh, that was 2013, wasn't it?
Misses it by a year. It's not eligible.
Yeah. Okay, I got one then. The year that LSU won the title, didn't they play Bama in the regular season? 2019 LSU Bama?
Yes.
Okay.
Without
looking, that's a better football game than Saturday night. It did not. I think that's a better football game than Saturday night. Just without looking, my guess would be if I watch both those games. Now, let's also keep in mind, Catch, we were doing post-game show as that game was getting started. I have not sat down to watch every bit of it. It's on my DVR. I'll get to it. I might change my mind, but right now I would go back to something like that before Saturday.
Does the SEC championship game count as a regular season game?
If it does, then last year's version between those two teams, I think, was better than Saturday night.
Oh, I didn't think so.
I mean,
Alabama and Georgia have a couple, though, in the SEC championship game that you could at least.
Because then you could go. Well, then if you count 8 championship games, the Jalen Hurts game against Georgia, that's a better football game than what we saw Saturday night. We just lose ourselves in it, and that's what's magical about football. But we're so immediate, Catch. It has to be, this is the greatest game I've ever. Whoa, slow down, Turbo. Just sit down, have another beer.
No one has said that.
It doesn't have to be.
I asked you a buy or sell question if it was the best in the last 10 years. And if so, could you name the game? You weren't able to name the game. That's all.
No, but I told you instantly that there had to be one. The fact that I couldn't come up with one, that doesn't necessarily that's not indicting.
By the way, this list is trash, ESPN. It's number 66 game on the list. is the 2009 Big 12 championship game where Texas beats Nebraska 13-12. That was an awful exhibition of football.
That's not a great football game. Catch, I'll give you one. One of the, I mean, again, by my definition, Manziel winning in Tuscaloosa. That's not a great football game. They got up 20-0 because Nick Saban slept through the beginning of it and they held on at the end. Great theater at the end. A great win for the Aggies and all that stuff. But was that one of the greatest football games I have ever watched in my life? No.
I just wanted to be educated and know what I'm not an SEC. I just joined the SEC.
Okay.
I don't have the background in the SEC. I wanted to know. Give me some great SEC games in regular season history so that I could bone up a little bit.
Yeah,
you haven't helped me out.
That's where my old manness comes through. But the greatest football game I've ever seen in my life cannot involve somebody almost blowing a 28-0 lead. It just can't. In fact, they did blow the lead.
If the Dallas Cowboys had come back and beaten the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game in January of 1995, if they call the pass interference on Dion and the Cowboys come back and win that game, I would call it the greatest goddamn NFL game that ever lived.
I'd call it one of the most laughable things to happen to a great franchise in the Niners ever. That's what I'd call it. I'd call it one of the great fall aparts in the history of the NFL because that's what it would have been. And it would have been a great win for the Cowboys.
The dynasty of the 90s coming back from the largest deficit known to mankind against a truly great San Francisco team and climbing and crawling and bit by bit taking your land back. And we fell short, and it still breaks my heart to this day. I remember I was dating this girl who didn't feel good, and she was hanging out. It was my girlfriend. She's hanging out at my house the day of that game. She didn't feel good, and she's sleeping in my bed. And I just remember thinking, how dare you feel bad in the lowest sporting moment of my life? Who do you think you are? You need to be consoling me. I'm legitimately devastated. You just don't feel good. Those are not the same things.
That is fantastic. All right, Catch. Earlier today, you said you needed to exit about 1. We're 16 minutes past that. Do you need to exit at this point? I have a couple more bills we need to pay.
Well, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you get on to the rest of your day, and then I'll set everybody up for the rest of today and tomorrow and the rest of the week.
By the way, A&M Kansas State Big 12 championship game in 98 is number 106 on the list.
That's a pretty damn good football game.
I remember better than Texas Nebraska.
Yes, absolutely. I think stem to stern, that was a better football game if we went back and watched it.
That was a overtime game against two teams battling it out versus two teams trying to find out who could vomit on their feet the most on offense.
I didn't realize a defensive tackle could win a game by himself. Well, he damn near did.
All right, my man. Have a great rest of the day.
All right. That is Jeff Ketchum, ladies and gentlemen. He will exit and head off to the rest of his day. We do have a couple super chats as well. We can't get out of here if we've got super chats left to get. So let's grab those two, and then we will hit some other stuff. Blake, 499, random question of the day. 3 players in the last 25 years you would want to have your back in a dark alley on 6th Street. Ooh, wow. It's a good one. Hang on. I'm going to jot this down for later for Catch. I like that. 3 players, dark alley. Last 25 years. All right. All right. Let me get my parameters straight. So we're going back to 99. 99. Basically, we're going like Mac Brown era at Texas up. I'm assuming you're asking about, I'll keep it to just Texas players. 3 players, last 25 years, you would want to have your back in a dark alley on 6th Street. That's a great question. If people want to throw in on the chat, let me know. That's not a bad one. That's not a bad place to start, Mark. Arakpo would be pretty badass. Corey Redding has already been thrown in. I've just got to think that, isn't Casey Hampton one of the answers? Like, I would think Casey Hampton in a dark alley is beneficial to me in the alley if he's on my side, right? I thought of this guy too. I did. Mark, as soon as the question was asked, I thought, well, one of the largest humans I've ever stood next to was Leonard, and he walked onto the 40 acres at like 365, 368, whatever the number was. I think this is an answer too. Yeah, Big Cheddar. I think I'm going to go Stuttered, Hampton, and then somebody says Aaron Humphrey. If I got Stuttered in Hampton, do I need somebody a little differently athletic for the other one? Because I got two maulers to start with. Do I need to kind of, here's Sergio Kendall, Marcus Tubbs. That's interesting. Somebody going recent with Banks. Okay. This is the answer. Matt has found the answer. It's Cameron Dicker. Cameron Dicker is the answer. That's funny. Blake says, I asked the question to Nate Boyer, and his response was Blake Gideon. True story. All right. Fair enough. Thank you for that super chat. That's awesome. I was not prepared for that one, but those are all good ones. You know what? Nate's an interesting one. Let me go with Hampton, Stuttered, and Nate Boyer. I think we'll be all right. I think we're good. Hooked on the Horns, $5 super chat. If you could take one player from last year's team and put them on this year's team, who would you choose? I'm always a defensive-minded person, Hooked. Part of me wanted to say Worthy, but this team's got a ton of receivers. It's Sweat or Murphy. Yeah, somebody put both of them in the meeting, right? Soto went with that way too. My gut says Sweat. My gut after watching Saturday, like they didn't give up too many. They didn't give up enough in the run game where you'd think there could be a problem, but there was enough that you just at least kind of, you had to, your eyebrow kind of went up, right? You kind of like, whoa, hang on. They controlled it, but I would go with Sweat or Murphy. Whichever one of those you think would be more impactful. Darwin, we referenced it earlier. I did not finish. I've started games in New York, have not finished. I'm going to get there. I will get there. I've started Bill the Butcher. I have not finished Bill the Butcher yet. It will happen. All right. Thank you guys for jumping in that Specs chat. Up over 700 folks in there right now. Let's thank one of our great partners. It is time for that AV consultation spot. Take the off week and consider the great setup that you could get from AV. Here we go.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations.
And Camilla McKay.
Kid, what time is it?
Old man, it's back to sports time. The hockey and football seasons are upon us.
And baseball is winding down to the best part.
And what about basketball season?
I'm 5'2". Who the hell cares about basketball?
Yeah, we're talking about watching, not playing. And in that case, you've got everyone covered, right?
That's right. Audiovisual Consultations has been providing awesome systems and service throughout Texas for over 30 years.
Installing home entertainment systems and livening up restaurants with incredible audio and video systems.
We're talking multi-screen video walls.
And home entertainment that puts you in the best seat in the stadium.
Just give us a call at 512-255-8678.
Hey, aren't you forgetting something?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Hug your kids until they beg you to stop. Watch a game with your friends.
And make love to whoever the hell you want.
Just give us a call at 512-255-8678 or visit us at avconsultations.com. Go Stars!
Go Bruins!
Kid.
Shout out to the good folks there at AV Consultations. I hope y'all are having a good one. Let's see. We are, I don't see super chats right now. Just scanning to make sure. Here's one for you. Big Cheddar wanting to know if there's an Outsiders tonight. There is. Thank you. It's part of my setup coming up. But yes, Outsiders tonight at 8:30. We're going to get into specifically the two guys that, not that they're the only two, but two of the guys that most obviously would want stuff back from the Mississippi State game. We're going to talk about Blue and the fumbles. We're going to talk about Cook and the drop. I definitely want to talk to Chance about it from the quarterback perspective, teammate perspective. What do you do? What do you do when a receiver drops a big ball like that? Because it destroys everybody, like the team and the fans. And how do you recover even in a win like that? But also with the fumbles, how do you deal with that with the running back and with the guys that maybe dealt with it a little differently than Sark did. I would have given him a carry coming up because he's your guy. He's not some guy. Because of the Baxter injury, Blue has to be not just he's your guy, he's your dog. You got to go. And maybe Sark would tell me, Chad, I gave him the second chance and he dropped that one too. To me, neither looked like a sloppy moment. So I would have said to him, you're going right back in. I'm going to hand you this football and you're going to go get me some yards to get it out of his system and get it out of his mind. That's the way I would have done it. Obviously, Sark's the football coach and I'm not. So we understand that part. Our man Cody Carpentier jumped in with a chat. Dine and dash for me today. The thing UT fans won't admit. Best 5 players on the roster. Arch, Colin, Simmons, Kelvin Banks, Ant, and Quinn have a great show. Cody, that's interesting. Catch kind of threw that out in his 10 thoughts in the weekend that he thought Arch was one of the 5 best players on the team. And, would fans not want to admit it? We're going to see how everybody plays, obviously, this thing out. But I continue to be impressed at how everybody's handling this. Arch and Sark stood on that field Saturday, and they both talked about Quinn in reverent tones. Arch talking about how Quinn has helped him out. And now Arch had to say, I'm sure he was thinking after the game about, hey, we're getting ready for a bye week and then going into OU. Because technically, Arch doesn't know that he's not for OU. Something could go wrong in the rehab. Something you got to be ready, right? Plus, Arch has to be ready at a play's notice anyway, even if Quinn is back perfectly healthy for OU. But the way that was handled was tremendous. Texas fans, just continue to bask in whatever this is. And whatever this is you got 2 badass quarterbacks, and there's only a handful of teams that wouldn't take your backup. You just think about that process. This is not Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, because Tebow was a different styled quarterback in a lot of ways than what Leak was giving him at that time. And he was not as developed as Arch Manning at that moment. Not even close. Not even close. Tim Tebow's passing delivery the last day in the NFL wasn't as good as Arch last Saturday. That's just my opinion. That's just mechanically, it's gorgeous to watch. Enjoy every bit of this from the quarterback perspective. The issue is going to be, if there's ever an issue, it's just going to be, do you, the Texas fans, watching the game, and does Sark, the head coach, coaching the game, ever feel like the team is down, the team needs something, and the something that they need is a change at quarterback? I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's where we're headed, but he does have a hell of another option if he needs it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Texas goes into the bye week at 5-0, and obviously they are looking damn good. We did get another super chat. Oh, good Lord. S. Roan 45, $5 super chat. Who's on your Aggie football player Mount Rushmore? Oh, good grief. Let's see. Top of my head. Oh, like Coriat, Dat, Johnny, Mike Evans? Is that too much in one spot, one area? God, I didn't put a running back in there. Darren Lewis has to be in there, right? Maybe we take Mikey out and put in Darren Lewis. There's the group. That's the first group that came to my mind. And I love Dat to death. Maybe Dat doesn't need to be on a Mount Rushmore, but he was one of the guys I thought of. So there's my first initial thoughts on that one. And John David, right? Maybe you just need to go double Heisman. Do you go John David, Johnny, Quentin, and Dat? Maybe that's it. Maybe that. Binks, 12-man. No. Remember, he didn't get in the game. He didn't get in. You got to play. Come on. All right. Thank you for that late super chat. I appreciate it. Let me tell you about another one of our great partners before we get done, and that is Sinus and Snoring Specialists. So over the weekend, we run up to Waxahachie to see my dad get this teacher award. So we went up late Friday night. We slept in a hotel, strange bed, different place, all that kind of stuff, because we surprised my dad with the fact that my wife and daughter came along. He thought I was going to be coming up, but he didn't realize they were coming. So we were doing a little surprise deal. So you're in a different bed. Want to make sure you're sleeping good. Sinus and snoring specialist made sure I was sleeping well. My wife was sleeping well. And therefore, we weren't bothering my kid. I'm sleeping well and not snoring. Been doing that since 2017. My wife traveling with her CPAP. It's so easy now with the CPAP stuff, traveling with all that. Seems like, oh, you got to do this. It's really not that big a deal. I've told you, she even did the CPAP on a cruise, and they brought the distilled water to the room every night. It was fantastic. So she slept like a baby. So did I. Kids slept good. We woke up refreshed and went and surprised my dad. So you can make sure you're sleeping good and feeling good and resting perfectly with sinus and snoring specialists. Get rid of those allergies for good, sinus issues, and more importantly, all that sleep apnea and snoring stuff you might be dealing with. Don't let it continue to get worse, because it can turn into something a lot worse than that. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy right there at Palmer and Mopac. All right, let me scan one more time for super chats, and then we will head towards the exit. Miles Garrett is tough. Miles Garrett is tough. And then I did hold on. I thought of this guy too, Jerry Vaughn. Yeah, probably. There's some good ones. There's some good ones. There's definitely a good one. All right, let's see. Now, what is this? This just you know this is going to get my attention. Matt says, Chad, who's your hotter than Mount Rushmore? Wow, my hotter than Mount Rushmore. Just like, I guess, okay, the ones that would win just about any battle. Top of my head, let's go Stacy Keebler, Aniston, because she can win a lot of battles. I'm a big Gabrielle Union guy, so may throw her in. And Gal Gadot. How about that for a quick little, quickly thought up Mount Rushmore? All right. And yeah, well, it's Randy. Randy, it's a tough night, man. It's a tough night. I hated seeing one of my guys do that. Hated it. I couldn't believe they let him play after that. I was like, oh my God, is he out of football forever? He wasn't out of football forever, but that was rough. That was a rough night. I definitely remember that. Still cannot believe that one happened. All right. Before we get out of here, just real quick, not like a rant or anything, but just a real quick comment. I don't know how much we're going to get to it this week. We didn't get to it. The one thing that jumped out to me about Sark's presser today, him talking about fixing errors of the game. Some of them are obvious, the fumbles, the drop pass, things like that. Offensive line issues. I was really glad that Steve Sarkisian also said, your coach taking 3 points off the board. He did it twice. The coach taking 3 points off the board. Hopefully Sark understands one truth about Saturday over all else from the nerdy football side of the world. That decision at that moment of a football game is always wrong. Always. Some analyst needs to tell him. He needs to remind himself, whoever he trusts, Milroe, somebody. When you've seen a game play out to that point, and it's become a you have to win the game, and it's an 8-point game, trips have to matter, and what you need on those trips have to matter. If you don't understand that you have to add that field goal to make it 11, so that to tie you, they need a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and a field goal in 2 separate trips down the field. For you to spit on that and leave it at 1 trip in an awkward game that was 14-6 is inexcusable. That can never happen again. The fact that it finished 35-13 is irrelevant. That is a dumb football decision every time. Every time. There's never going to be a moment. If they gave you a first down, that's a different discussion. It's never going to be the right choice to try a 4th and 3 there. Ever. Ever. Let's remind you, Texas fans, the one thing, not one of the things that's out there about your head coach is he's not perfect in close games. He's 7-12 in 1-score games. 2-5, followed by 2-5, followed by 3-2. So do not stare headlong into a 1-score game that you could make a 2-score game and spit on it, Sark. Don't ever do that again. Your kicker just hit a 49-yard kick. Kick off and let it roll. You need 17-6 there every time. Don't give me any score combination of up 8 at 38-30. You know what you need? 41-30. You need that every time. That is a horrible decision. You can't ever make it again. Don't even think about that against Georgia. You do that against Georgia, that's insanity. Do it against Florida. Do it in Fayetteville. Do it in College Station. You're doing it at your own peril. The football gods will smash you right back for that. Against Mississippi State, you got away with it because they're not a great team. Don't do that again. On behalf of every Texas fan in the stands, did you hear that rabble? Did you hear that murmur in the crowd, Sark? That's the sound of a dumb football decision on purpose. Do you know what you reminded him of in that moment? The guy you replaced. That's who did stuff like that. Spitting on 3 points when it made total sense. That's the kind of crap Herman did. You can't do that anymore. You got away with it because it was in an easy game. Do not do it again. All these Longhorns around you might not tell you. I'm a third-party observer. I'm the outsider. You can't do that anymore. That's inexcusable. So I'm glad you did that. Your coach taking 3 off the board. Yes, you can't ever do that again. Ever. And don't tell me it didn't matter. Don't tell, well, I know, but it's... You can't ever make that decision. Don't ever do that again. Ever. Never, ever, 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 ever. To make 8-11 in the third quarter of a game, it's insane not to make that choice. Completely insane. I don't care what you thought of before, but on 4th and 3, I got a great play. I don't care. I don't care. And then you ran a silly play too. Ran a silly little play that had a low percentage a chance to make it. I don't care if you'd have made the 4th and 3. I'd have still told you it was a dumb decision. That's dumb. Take a 2-score lead when you can take a 2-score lead. Y'all remember when Aaron Rodgers came off the field not long ago and they accused him and he and his coach of not getting along? Do you know what Aaron Rodgers said in that moment? He said 2-score lead because he and his coach always talk about it because it's a big deal. It's not as big a deal in college football as it is in the NFL. But in a game where you've looked like that up to that moment, it's a big damn deal. Take a 2-score lead. All right, I'm done on my soapbox. All right, as someone mentioned, Outsiders is coming up. But before that today, Football with Friends at 6. Alex and Cody breaking it down. Outsiders tonight at 8:30. Old Fashioned tomorrow at 9. And the legendary Modcast at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So enjoy it all here at Orange Bloods Live. Thank you to over 700 people that are in that Specs chat as we get ready to close up. In fact, let me give you the extra thanks because I did update the graphic. Thank you for getting us to 21,500. And we're over that mark, headed towards 21.6 on our way to 8 billion. But you can't get there till you get to 21.6. So if you're not a subscriber, consider being a subscriber. It's absolutely free. If you know someone who watches Orange Bloods Live and you need to know, are you a subscriber? Or maybe you're asking them, are you real? Hey, we believe you're real. We believe you're real, even if Anwar doesn't. And I'm sure she is a subscriber. I'm sure she is. What is it? J Blonde 05? Is that what it was? Is that what the name is? For some reason, I've now forgotten the name. That doesn't mean she's less real that I forgot the name. How dare you? How dare all of you for even thinking of it? Where is it? Now I lost the name. Dadgummit. Where did it go? Where did it go? South End Zone Queen, help me out. What is it? Oh, where did it go? So sad. See, now it's gone, and I'm going to think she's not real. But I know she's real. I know it was real. Oh my God. Now I see what happens. Oh, see, the chat resets itself to where I can't find it later on. That's sick. That is absolutely sick. Text Blonde. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Text Blonde. I'm assuming Text Blonde is a subscriber to the YouTube channel. It may not be the case, but that's always been my assumption. All right. Thank you guys for jumping in. One more shout out to my dad, Doc Hastings, for getting the Outstanding Educator Award. He is an important guy in my hometown. He's one of the most important teachers they've ever had, and they gave him his flowers on Saturday. It was a beautiful day downtown. That is the finest courthouse. By the way, if you're a courthouse freak and you've never seen the courthouse in Waxahachie, I'm partial, obviously, because it's my hometown courthouse. But damn it, I think it's the best one out there. I don't think you'll find one in Texas that competes. The man who built it, the architect who built it, was in love with a woman at the beginning. She left him by the end. He changed the faces from happy to evil by the end of it. And at some point, he decided to depict her private parts on the side of the building, on the south side, ironically enough. It's there. You can go see it. Plus, the architecture is just gorgeous. It is the finest courthouse, in my opinion, in the state of Texas. So go see it if you get a chance. But thanks to Waxahachie, and we had at the theater where I saw my very first movie. I saw the Muppet movie in this place when I was like 5, whatever I would have been when the Muppet movie came out. And then that's where they did the ceremony, and my dad got the teacher award. So that was very cool. Very cool. So thanks to everybody for jumping in for the show today. Football with Friends comes up at 6. We will continue to roll through the bye week tomorrow with a Tuesday show, continuing to talk about Texas, what they look like, what Milroe and Bama look like, and all that kind of stuff. And oh, by the way, there's only one ranked matchup this week in college football, and I'm going to go check it out. A&M and Missouri, the only ranked matchup. Both of them did a pretty good job of getting there. Obviously, A&M slipped against Notre Dame. Missouri beat the 4 that was in front of them. One of them was barely, but they got there. They're the 9th ranked team in the country, and they have a chance to get a road win over a ranked team and really catapult their season. Or maybe the Aggies have a chance to get a little bit back off that Notre Dame game if they can get a win. So we'll be talking about all those. There's some other interesting games this week where ranked teams are on the road facing a challenge. So as a Texas fan, just sit back and watch all this, and we'll see how it plays out. We'll be back tomorrow at noon for another edition of House Divided.